we have a situation that's been happening maybe in the last 2, 3 weeks, maybe a little more, and that's the Bitcoin market. It's looks like it's in decline, and when it falls, they all fall. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I still don't know what YouTube did like a week ago. I still don't know what happened there. But if you can hear me good, I'm glad. Okay. All my things here check out right. Okay. So, okay. Anyways, Bitcoin is on a tumble. You know, the whole Bitcoin market, the crypto market. And so the question is this just business as usual? You know, like this time of the year, it's always going down, and then it picks up and ramps up and makes some people millionaires? Is that what's going to happen, or is this an ongoing a trend that's going to continue? Okay, and there you can see some of the news headlines saying that Bitcoin or the crypto market is in trouble. But in fact, you know, for the last day or so, it's been, I guess, picking up again. So I don't know. You tell me if this has any bearing on anything. But you know, the interesting part about this is that maybe one of the factors is this country called Kazakhstan. Used to be one of the Soviet republics from the USSR, Union of Socialist Soviet Socialist Republics. In fact, we used to call them the UFFSR at work. We said the Union of fewer and fewer socialist republics because a lot of them kept, you know, leaving the so-called Union. And so, yeah, Union of fewer and fewer. But apparently Russia has retained a couple, and one of those is Kazakhstan. And it turns out Kazakhstan is responsible for about 1/5, almost, right, of the crypto mining on the planet. And maybe one of the things that triggered some of this or helped, you know, the decline is the fact that, you know, as you can see there, they've got a little bit of a problem, political and economic and maybe even military problems over there in Kazakhstan. So much so that the Russian army had to step in to help them out, you know, to weed out all the terrorists. You know how it goes. They have all these you know, like the NATO, they have their own NATO over there. They have their union of military and intelligence and so on. And so every mafia's got their own groups. And one of those problems right now is this Ukraine. And that's going to be an important point maybe this year, maybe not. Maybe it just dies soon and they all reach an agreement. But there is a possibility that, you know, both sides, neither side backs down, and instead of backing down, they go for it, right? And what Russia wants is the United States to get off United States empire, because we got to talk about all these regions as empires. You got the Russian Empire, Chinese Empire, the American Empire. Period. That's it. You got to talk in those terms. And Russians see the American empire as encroaching on their vital interests, right? And so wants to stop them. Says, you know, here's a red line. You can't cross that red line, because if you do, there's going to be trouble. You're going to have to fight. And so the question is whether, you know, the Americans are going to step over the line or not. And the Americans have the other argument. They say, well, you know, every country has to decide on their own whether they want to belong to this side or that side. And the Russians say, no, we're not going to let Ukraine fall on your side. Okay, it's going to be like a buffer. And if that doesn't happen, then they're going to attack Ukraine. And so the question is, you know, everybody's got a chip on their shoulder and they say, knock it off. So we'll see what happens. Let's hope the politicians, the diplomats can fix this instead of the military guys, right? But anyways, Kazakhstan, you know, big trouble now, and maybe some of the other so-called Soviet republics, the Russian republics now, that are part of this, you know, political military organization. You know, maybe they're all going to have a little bit of problems. And right now, the way I see it, you know, what you see there, the riots, is something, you know, I said would happen, that, and I think it's going to continue to happen from now on. You're going to see more and more riots in more and more cities in the world, across the planet. Every country is having problems right now. That's why I can't imagine how some people say that, Bill, are you crazy? We're going to go extinct this century, maybe even a few decades, maybe in a few years, maybe in a few months. Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, things are not right, economically speaking, across the planet. I think all countries are suffering right now. And if, you know, if you go to those countries, you'll find out what I mean. Every country is undergoing some kind of problem, especially in the big cities. And in the big cities, what you have is people revolting, and they're going out there and breaking windows, burning tires, etc. We're going to see a lot more of that as things get worse and worse. At least that's what I think is going to happen. Okay, belief maybe. I'm saying the economy is going to force people to go out into the streets. That's what I'm saying. Okay, continuing here, a fellow says, you never answered my question on whether nuclear weapons are real and do exist. In fact, I did answer the question. You probably missed it. I don't know. You got to check back. But he said originally nuclear weapons, real or just made up. And he talked about Hiroshima and Nagasaki were repopulated very quickly, implying with that maybe there was no bomb thrown out there on those cities, because how could it have been repopulated immediately after the bomb? And so my quick answer, again, right now, I'm not going to go through it all over again, but the quick answer was that there was an article in The Guardian that analyzed it, and they said there was a typhoon that swept through the city. And because of that, it kind of washed a lot of the residual radiation, out into the sea. That was one issue. And the other issue they raised is that the survivors, many of them, had cancers throughout their lives. So yeah, but I think what's most interesting about the issue here is that there are some people who don't believe that the bombs were ever thrown. And so what I did raise when I answered the question, I said, well, obviously JFK never existed. Nobody murdered him because he wasn't there to begin with. I mean, did you see JFK? Did you touch him? Did you see him? And so, do we have to test everything personally? I mean, has any of you talked to or spoke with or shaken hands with Napoleon? I mean, did Napoleon exist, or is this a fairy tale that he told us? How about Julius Caesar? Any of you see him? So what are we going to do? We're going to say none of that ever happened because I didn't see it. So they're telling me a fairy tale and I just believe it. And all we can do is, just carry on the histories from people in the past, and they pass it on to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation, and we inherited it at the end of the line. We inherited it, and what are you gonna? I mean, you can say, well, maybe this did not happen in the way they told us, in the way that the victors wrote it, but that doesn't mean that some of the people who were there never happened, never existed. And so when we take that to the to the nuclear bombs, are we going to say that the bombs never fell because I wasn't in Nagasaki to, receive the blow? It's again, it's one of those things. Then you got the flat earthers. They don't believe that, rockets went out into space and took pictures of the Earth or the moon from space itself. They don't believe in that. They say it because, obviously if you take a picture from outer space and can show that the Earth is round just by a picture, spherical, that would destroy their religion. And of course they had to attack that and say, well, I wasn't there to see it. I don't know that there was a satellite, that there was a rocket out there or a camera that far out taking pictures of the Earth or the moon. And what can I say? I have a good solution for that. Next time they send a rocket into space from Florida, usually the JFK site over there, Kennedy Center. If they're going to throw a rocket next time out into space, very simple. Take your camera or ask someone from your organization, the Flat Earthers. There are Flat Earthers in Miami and Florida in general, right? And ask them to go in there and film the rocket with your telescope. They have all the the telescopes and the cameras, everything, and film the rocket as it goes out, and tell me if that rocket goes into outer space or comes back. I mean, it's very simple. If that rocket keeps going and going and going and going, it's gone. It's in outer space. So to say that rockets don't go into outer space when you have a camera and you have a telescope with which you can film, see it and film it, go out into, into the beyond the stratosphere. Oh yeah, I mean, then you have no argument. Then you know that we can send rockets into outer space, and of course, if we can send a rocket into outer space, we can send satellites out there, and we can also, take pictures from outer space of the Earth. Okay, so I think it's very simple. You just gotta, you like experiments? There's a chance to do your experiment. Go out there and take a telescope and a camera, film camera or whatever, and film the rockets go into outer space. Tell me that they don't go into outer space. Okay, fellow says, being bred and living as an Amish is a fitter solution than being an average American, it seems. If you have 10 kids, even if 2 or 3 of them have disorders, the remaining 7 will be better off. Well, this is not about being better off or anything like that. So this is what I answer. I'm saying that this has nothing to do with better or worse. It has nothing to do with being better off. Opinions are not part of science. Okay, many envy the lives of the Amish, but that's irrelevant. Okay, so I think they have a great life, and that doesn't even come into play. The issue here is inbreeding leads to mentally, physically handicapped kids. That's what it is. Okay, so the problem is inbreeding leads to problems, genetic problems, which can manifest themselves either as physical or mental problems. And so one generation or a few kids of that generation will come out bad. Okay, and I think that's a microcosm of what's happening to humanity. We've been inbreeding now for who knows how many thousands of years. Okay, and so right now we're having problems. We're having physical and mental problems. Physical ones that we've never seen before. Mental ones probably as well. So you figure out if that's got any bearing on procreation. Okay. And again, the Amish are just an example, and I'm just using them as an analogy what is happening to the human race as a whole. Okay. Okay, let me move on here. Fellow says, if I can get it up here. Fellow says, a theory has experiments that are repeatable with consistent observations that are peer-reviewed. Whoa. This last generation on Earth BS is based on nothing but opinion, pure speculation, prediction, prophecy. Well, first of all, a theory has no experiments. A theory means you're going to give an explanation. That's what a theory is. It's an explanation. In physics, it's an explanation of a mechanism. That's what we're talking about here. So, we need no experiments to give you an explanation. Explanation is separate from experiment. You can do all the experiments you want at home, learn whatever you want, take all the data you want, reach your own conclusions. But when you come to the conference, all we want is the explanation, the mechanism, what you learned, what you can explain. We don't want you doing an experiment out there in front of us and saying, here's the experiment I did. Who cares what experiment you did? And then the other issue is, that we cannot experiment on extinction. So here's my answer to this fellow, okay? Can't run an experiment on human extinction. I mean, what are we going to do? Kill all humans and say, well, you were right, Bill, humans did become extinct. I mean, I don't know what experiment you're going to run on human extinction. And then peer reviewed by whom? Who's going to peer review? The Pope? Maybe the Dalai Lama? Who's going to be doing this peer reviewing? Maybe some mathematician who talks about space-time, four-dimensional space-time, maybe about zero-dimensional singularities, or a particle being at two places at once. Is that who's gonna peer review your paper? And then opinion again is not a theory. Okay, prediction is a description, and prediction is not an explanation. What we're talking about is a full and foolproof mechanism. Okay, and mechanism has nothing to do with prediction. Okay, so again, his attack is misplaced completely. Okay, what we're talking about here is a mechanism. What is a mechanism that's going to cause the extinction of man? One, and second, a mechanism man can't do anything about. I mean, that's the crucial part, because if you can do something about whatever's going to cause the extinction of man, well, then what you're talking about here is essentially something you can do something about. Maybe you can overcome it. But if there's something you can't do anything about, now that's a guaranteed mechanism of extinction, and that's what we're presenting here. We're saying that there is a guaranteed mechanism of extinction. Okay, and that's different than the asteroid theory and all the other theory about the Neanderthal disappearing because they mated with humans. All those theories very simple. We have no one to mate with now, so we're not going to die because we don't have any Neanderthals or any cousins of any kind to interbreed with. And asteroid, hopefully we can do something about it. I mean, if an asteroid comes our way, it's no biggie. We blow it up maybe with a nuke. So that means we're going to live forever because we can take care of those problems. Well, maybe those weren't the mechanisms that caused those extinctions. Maybe that's the better conclusion. Okay, so this is the issue. Okay, another issue raised by another fellow. The rich have vast underground cities. Okay, and you know about this. They showed them to you. You've been through all those gopher holes, You know where the kitchen is. You've seen it all. They gave you a tour. I mean, how do you know there are vast underground cities? Okay, I mean, if you know of one, very, very simple. You just dig with your drill somewhere, and maybe you'll get down there. Maybe you can have your underground city. Yeah, I mean, people have speculation. They say, "Oh, the rich have all these things." Maybe that's what you would do if if you had the money. You would say, "Oh, I'm going to build my underground city, my personal underground city." But let me tell you something about that. Let's assume the Gates and the Buffetts and all these people out there. They have all these underground cities, these gopher holes in which they can hide if worst comes to worst. Okay, so the question is, how are they going to live there? I mean, are they going to have servants serving them? Are they going to take people down there who are going to protect them while the world is in turmoil? And the question is, can they trust them? Can they trust these people? I mean, right now, all these people work for people like Gates, right? Bill Gates, my brother, he's got a little more money than me. And they work for him for money. But, you take the money out of the picture. Why does Joe Blow, who works for Bill Gates, have to follow any orders or serve his master anymore? What's he going to do? Pay him with money? Fire him, maybe? So the problem with all this underground cities notion is that if you create your underground city, you're the first one they're going to roast on the barbecue because, you're probably old. That's why you have money in general terms, right? And all these young people who are protecting you, who are doing the leg and arm work for you, they don't have to follow your orders afterwards. Once the economy falls apart, that's it. There's nothing you can bribe them with. You can give them a pound of gold and they can't do anything with it. They're going to throw it away. They say, what do I need this rock for? See, all that stuff is important now, today. But after the world collapses, there's nowhere to hide. Okay, so all these underground cities, speculation is just people who are dreaming about stuff from Hollywood. They're saying, "Oh, an underground city! How cool that would be to have one." If I were rich, that's what I would do: put an underground city. Yeah, you're gonna hide in there, sure, but you're gonna hide alone because no one else is gonna follow you, and whoever follows you there, you better have a lot of confidence, a lot of faith in them, right? You certainly don't want to rely on them through salaries. You don't want proletarians down there, okay? People who depend on a salary because once money is no more, they have no reason to follow your orders or even your recommendations. In fact, they say, "Hey, I don't need you anymore." Okay, so keep that in mind. It's not a question of making underground cities. It's a question of how do you survive an extinction as much as you can, if possible, right? Okay, a fellow says Afghanistan has the world's largest store of rare earth minerals mined by the USA and now taken over by China. Treason. Yeah, see, the issue, this came around because I said that, the United States is guarding Taiwan because Taiwan has Taiwan semiconductor. And there's two things involved there. One is that it's probably the largest, if not one of the largest in the world, as far as what is known as a foundry, manufacturer of chips, actual manufacturer of chips. That means that, suddenly if you can get a hold of that prize, you can stop the flow of chips, maybe to the west, okay? And, you got the control of the faucet, okay? And so this is a problem, especially now that there's dearth of chips in the world, especially in the automotive industry. Imagine if China were to get a hold of, Taiwan semiconductor, there would be fewer chips out in the world if China so desires. Okay, that's one issue. The other one is that, China is behind the West, maybe 5 to 8 years in chip development and chip design and manufacturing and so on. Can you imagine if they get a hold of Taiwan semiconductor? Suddenly, they gain 5 to 8 years and, come up to speed with the rest of the world, Western world, right? So suddenly you have all this technology in their hands. So that's important for China, and that would be important for the United States. And I think that's why the United States tries to protect Taiwan, primarily because that's the key prize in Taiwan. Taiwan semiconductor. Keep that in mind. Okay, I'm telling you because I work in the industry. I know how important Taiwan semiconductor is, manufacturing is for the world. It's a very important company. It's a big company, by the way. Okay, a lot of companies subcontract to Taiwan Semiconductor. But what's the issue? The issue here, he's saying, I said, they abandoned Afghanistan because there was no Taiwan Semiconductor in Afghanistan, meaning, there's nothing real of very important in Afghanistan. So the guy says, well, there is. They have all this mining. Yeah, you have to develop it. That's one issue. And you can't develop it while you have a war. And you have China and Russia, they're helping Afghanistan to make sure the United States is not successful in Afghanistan. They've done this for many years. The Afghanis, the guys in the mountains, the hillbillies, they get their weapons. Where do they get them? They get them from Russia and they get them from China. These countries are helping the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know? And so the United States realized that they're spending a lot of money. They're not getting a big bang for the buck. And they said, we better invest somewhere else. And they decided to move their forces to the east, farther east, you know. And so now they're in the east. They're making an arrangement with Australia, with the UK, right? And they're trying to protect Taiwan and Australia, right? And they're trying to protect Taiwan because they realize that protecting Taiwan is a little more important than protecting Afghanistan. Besides, it's probably easier right now to protect Taiwan to a certain degree than it is to protect Afghanistan, which is closer to both China and Russia, right? And these countries will be helping Afghanistan until the United States bogs down and can't get out of there. It's another Vietnam. And so they realized this and they said, no, let's get out of Afghanistan. It's not worth it. Let's go and protect instead. Let's put our resources in Taiwan. And that's, I think, the strategy now. Okay, so that's what the answer is to this. So yeah, even though Afghanistan has mining and so on, minerals, you gotta mine them, and you can't mine with one shovel and on the other hand hold a machine gun, you know, and fight. You know, what are these? What do you call them? Forget the name now. The the Greek guy who worked both in the farm and also had to, you know, carry a weapon. You know, he did both, and so are these guys. You know, you can't on the one hand mine and on the other one hold a machine gun and protect yourself. Okay, another issue here. Fellow says, as for human beings being unable to travel to the stars light years away, you claim all atoms are connected, but how? But the physical mechanism is yet to be explained. Okay, I don't know what mechanism he's talking about. Yeah, they're connected. That's not an explanation. It's just an assumption. Okay, isn't it possible if a physical mechanism exists that involves torsion rather than movement of electrons, as you propose, traveling faster than the speed of light may be possible? Well, the issue there is that, you know, you get a rope, like my famous rope here, okay, and you know, you can torque it all you want, right? But the rope goes nowhere. The link goes nowhere. Maybe a little that way, maybe a little bit that way, but that's it. You know, there's no motion. The link is not traveling, you know, at the speed of light. What travels is this signal along the rope, which causes pressure or a little impulse at the end of the rope, okay, against the atom to which it's connected. And so, you know, matter are atoms. Atoms are not the ones traveling at the speed of light. Okay, you know, when I move, I don't move at the speed of light through the ropes. Light moves along the ropes to my eyes, to all my atoms at the speed of light, meaning the torsion that signal reaches me at the speed of light. But the atoms, they move very slowly, or depending on what, you know, what it belongs to. In my case, I move very slowly. So to say that because the torsion travels at the speed of light, that the atoms travel at the speed of light and we're going to make it to the nearest star, absolutely not. Okay, there's no way you're going to achieve that. So the point here is that we cannot leave the planet, meaning we cannot go to the nearest star. And like I said the other day, we don't even need to go to the nearest star, because we've got enough room here on Earth. We've got more than enough room. And the problem there is that we're not producing children. You know, the growth rate is going down. And so because we're not producing children, we have enough room for all the people that we are and that we will make in the next few years, or until we become extinct. And so we don't have to worry about space, like going into Mars or the moon and creating stations because, you know, the planet is overcrowded. No such thing. The overcrowdedness is only in the cities. Okay. Other than that, the planet is empty. You know, and I made the numbers the other day about how empty it is. So no, we don't need to travel. We don't need to go to another planet or star system or moon or whatever, or asteroid, because of reasons of space. We don't have a problem of space here on the planet. Okay. We have enough room for everybody. So don't worry about space. We got a different problem, and that's that we're not producing children to fill the spaces that we do have. Okay. That's the problem. Okay, last point here, the fellow says, it is a lack of genetic diversity in the human gene pool why no one is immune from being infected with a single virus. Again, you know, this is the notion that the geneticists have, that it's got to do with, not with what I say it's got to do with, meaning that inbreeding leads to loss of genetic diversity. And loss of genetic diversity leads to problem children. Okay, that's my argument. These people talk about something else, the fact that if we have all the same genetic code, like we're all exact clones of each other, then the problem there is that a single disease can kill us all because none of us have any defenses against that virus or bacteria or whatever. So I'm saying that I'm not worried about that, because humans are not going to die because of disease. Okay, Like no animal in the past ever died, no species in the past became extinct because of disease. Now, if we're going to die, we're going to die for something else. And I'm saying it's going to be the economy. But meanwhile, what we do have is that we have inbreeding at the end of our life, our species life, and that inbreeding is producing bad children. So if you see lousy children out there today, children with handicaps of all kinds, physical and mental, I'm saying that's due to inbreeding and to loss of genetic diversity. Okay? But anyways, he said, this slow-moving disaster has been evident. Study and preparations are underway to create more human genetic diversity, mutations, and hybrids. We're creating more genetic diversity. How are we doing that? Okay, I mean, we have a little machine or what? People having fewer children may be addressed by the artificial womb. Yeah, we're going to have a little robot, producing children. No, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to produce children in artificial wombs. Where did you get this? People are talking about robots, about androids, they got too much Hollywood in their heads, maybe too many games. This is not realistic. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, are we going to produce children in a factory, like an assembly line? We're going to put carbon in, and nitrogen, oxygen, whatever, and produce children out of coming out of the assembly line? For what? Who's going to produce children for what? What's the economic advantage for a company to produce children? I mean, let's assume we learn how to do it. Okay, God gives us the knowledge, the mechanism. We say, okay, we start here, we put all the ingredients, and out here comes a child. So we don't need women anymore, right? We can produce it on the assembly line. I mean, first of all, it's crazy, but let's go crazy. Let's make sure we all agree that it's feasible. Let's do the thought experiment. Why would anyone produce children? I mean, are you going to sell children on the market and say, oh, we're going to sell children, whoever wants them? There's so many parents out there that want children, adopt children. If that were so, you wouldn't have foster homes. So the fellow says, the mechanism of reproduction is not a mystery. Well, I guess it is for you. So no, I don't think we're going to be producing children, because no one is going to get into the business of producing children. Right now, we're all in a different business, and the business that's growing tremendously is the internet business. Everybody's going on the internet. Nobody wants to work. Everybody just wants to hit it big. And in that sense, we've changed the ethics, the way of thinking of previous generations. A lot of people in the past, what they wanted is to, get a good job, have a family, etc. Children. That's gone. Right? People think in general that it's disappearing. What people want now is just to hit it big, so that, in fact, they don't want kids because kids tie them down, and they just want to do careers and enjoy life. Have servants, maybe have a palace, be by the beach, have your own yacht. That's what everybody dreams about, or a lot of people dream about in the new generations. And so nobody's thinking about having kids and having family and 10 children. Who's thinking about that?